All right, well, thank you everyone for being here this afternoon. We're excited to present this preview of the Agile ISD Practitioner program. And real quick, I'd love to just have everyone share your name and the food that you enjoyed most this week. So I'll start. My name is Kimberly Leonard, and I am with ICATT as the leader of the Dream Team and one of the developers on this project. And the food I enjoyed the most this week, I had my favorite ice cream last night, which is caramel caribou. And it's a vanilla ice cream with chocolate. What do you call those things? They're chocolate caramel cups. So it was delicious. And with that, I'll pass it over to Jonathan.
Thank you. Hey, everyone. I'm Jonathan, and I had baked potato soup, which I have not had in ages, and it was just really delicious with a little bacon and cheese on the top of it. It was wonderful, and I just had a cup, but that was just enough to get that fix.
That's one of my favorites too. All right, how about Peter?
Well, thanks. So I'm Peter Baverso. I'm the president. I'm excited to be here, and I've been mostly fasting this week. So my favorite food was had tabbouleh and hummus for lunch. So that's the first solid thing I've eaten all week.
Thank you. And Gabe.
Yes, thank you so much, Kimberly. My name is Gabe Hamdar with ICATT. I'm the president and CEO of ICATT, but my job in essence is cheerleading for people I come across. And the food I really cherished this week, one I dreamed about, one of our colleagues spoke about shrimp shiro. I bet you have no idea what that means, but shrimp shiro just sounded fantastic, and I've been talking about it. But the one I enjoyed is a burger from Burger Joint, a place kind of nearby. So if this is a good advertisement for them, so be it. You know, usually when I have a burger, I have some kind of tummy something, but that day there was no tummy, nothing. It was very good. It was mouth-watering, and my hand was full of stuff. It was delicious. I got the idea from Kimberly one day, said she had a burger her brother-in-law made, and I said, burger. Well, that's my story.
Glad you enjoyed it too, Gabe.
I follow my leader.
All right, well, thank you. With that, we'll go ahead and get started with the presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and share to the screen here. And as long as the slide is visible to you all, we can go ahead and get started with Gabe.
Wonderful. So what we are presenting for preview today is the ICATT Agile ISD Practitioner program. And this program pretty much in essence is about enhancing employability and creating jobs in our community. So just when you think of the ICATT Agile ISD Practitioner, think of enhanced employability and creating jobs in our community. So I would just say, ICATT and Agile ISD have lived together for a long, long time since our existence. We've been in business 27 years, and all these years, we've been practicing Agile ISD, informally, formally, however way. So we've used it on numerous client projects. Now, in 2020, we made a switch, because of the pandemic. We had an opportunity to look at what we do and what value we can add to the world. So we started having a conversation with ISPI Potomac, our good friend Peter, and have been discussing how this program can be credentialed so that we can legitimately use it to enhance employability, meaning preparing people for this profession and also create jobs using it. So on that journey, starting in 2020, we did a number of things. Number one, we asked a lot of people whose backgrounds are ISD or no ISD to follow a guidance we give them to develop sample courses to learn from it. So we did that many times over, and many of our colleagues, went ahead and developed mini courses using the methodology we've been using. And the second thing we did was we've been using this methodology more deliberately, intentionally using the Agile ISD methodology in some of the client projects we've been working on. And we have been taking notes and making improvements. And it was, the experience we had with that is, cost savings, more relevant to the client, more targeted, impress clients. So we've been testing in those manners. And then starting in 2021, we started to formally develop the courseware to train people, in ICATT Agile ISD Practitioner program. So we've been formalizing the program. And the intention, kind of like it all comes down to 3 goals in mind. In doing this, the first thing we have in mind is to take someone with a good aptitude. By that, I mean, someone with critical thinking mindset, someone who is a good writer, someone with, visual design, abilities, and also someone who is kind of good in developing online resources. Someone with that kind of background and aptitude, develop a training program so that they can be transformed from this person who can really develop cool, amazing, engaging courses. That's our first goal. The second goal is, use this as a means of increasing someone's, employability. We give them this skill, and using this skill, this occupation, they can get a job. And third is to create jobs within our community. Let's say if there are 5 people we train in one community, and they do, Agile instructional design, guess what? Employability enhanced and jobs created. So that's kind of the road we begun, and that's what we're gonna present to you. Now, with that said, let me kind of move to our presentation today. Okay, kind of introduce our presenters. Our presenters today on the second, we're moving to the slide that has presentation outline. And there are 3 of us on the preview. The first one I want to talk about is Kimberly. So Kimberly Leonard is our the ICATT Associate Chief Learning Officer, and she's also Executive Director of the Dream Team. And the Dream Team she leads is responsible for, her team, Kimberly and her team invented Training Reimagined methodology, Training Reimagined methodology, where, take any content, to take content from YouTube or any publicly available resource, it has content, and then reimagine it into being fully engaging. So content alone is not learning or teaching, but when that content comes alive and fully engaging, that's what we call learning. And so Kimberly's team has been doing this for a number of clients and on many learning events. And so Kimberly is the architect of this program, the developer of this program, and she will be giving us a walkthrough of the approach and the content of the program. And then we have Jonathan, who is the Chief Learning Officer and certified coach, and on the Dream Team. So, Jonathan has been coaching myself, Kimberly, and the whole ICATT leadership team, and also coaching us in development of this program with a focus on program integrity. So Jonathan has been the person who's been asking, is what we develop traditional, or is it truly agile at its core? So it's going to be the integrity guy. And then myself, Gabe Hamda, with the PhD in instructional design from Florida State. I have the academic background and also many years being in business and applying agile instructional design because of client needs. So I've been, providing direction as well as conducting more the market research. What's the need for it out there? So that's the perspective I bring between the three of us. We are kind of the leaders in the development, and there are other dream team members who've been participating, but we are at the forefront and will be presenting today's overview. With that, let me take you to the next slide on just a little bit about ICATT Professional Services. So kind of just want to point out that ICATT Professional Services has recently been rebranded, and we are rebranded from ICATT Consulting to ICATT Professional Services. And in this rebranding, it's not only a name, but we made three distinct changes. Number one, our focus in the past has been people only, and our tagline used to be, your people are great and we make them better. We still believe people are great, we make them better. We added data. The two most important assets, currencies of any organization are people, number one, and number two, data. So we added data analytics, and therefore our tagline now is making your people and data greater. So that's one change in our rebranding. The second act is now we became a social enterprise, which means our purpose, our reason for existence is to enhance employability and to create jobs in our community. So that became the purpose for which ICATT exists, employability and job creation. And another change we made is we want to be better aligned with our business, with our partners, organizations who seek our services, so that we become their partner for professional development, talent source, data analytics, and social impact. So by partners, we mean whether it is direct clients or teaming partners, whether we laterally team up with others, we want to be the source for those services. Now, in that, our service offerings have been kind of redesigned as Career Academy, outsourcing, staffing, and recruitment, which what we used to do, and we added applied data analytics and added social enterprise. So that's a little bit about ICATT, who is kind of the home of this Agile Instructional Design Practitioner program. With that, let me kind of give you a few items, maybe a few programs we have available to the community, more the ICATT Career Academy Credential training programs. So we have a Scaled Agile Product Owner, Product Manager program as one of our credential programs, CompTIA A+, CompTIA Network Plus, CompTIA Security Plus, and Agile Instructional Design Practitioner program. So these are our credential training programs. By that, we mean if someone is certified or someone receives credential to be one of these, so their certification, their credential will be universal or globally accepted. So that's what that means. So it kind of, they get an occupation. They can either be, Agile Instructional Designer, or they can be a security. If they get a CompTIA Security Plus, they become a security architect. Or if they are a CompTIA Network Plus complete, they can be a network administrator. Or CompTIA A+, they can troubleshoot hardware and software. Or if they become a Scaled Agile Product Manager, Product Owner, they can overall add value rather than just compartmentalized deliverables. So with that said, since we talk so much about employability, I want to just briefly mention, how we enhance employability. How the magic happens. How do we transform someone from just being a technical person to a person who really adds value where they are? Whether they want to be employed, or whether they want to have their own business, or whether they want to be a freelancer, whatever they are, for them to be in demand. So there are things we do with them. One is preparing them for certification exam. Kind of like this is, we engage with them for a year after they participate in our bootcamp program. And we also work with them in portfolio development, provide support. And our dream team has developed a portfolio development protocol or resource or self-paced program. We set them up with information out interviews, cohort peer support, where they can, let's say if we have 15 students, the 15 students will work together so that they can learn from each other, increase their knowledge, social learning, and also they can help each other in their career pursuit. Coaching support, direct coaching support in the technical area as well as in the employability, as well as professionalism. We have come to learn that a person's success is beyond their technical skills. So technical skills and how they present. Are they responsive to the request made? Are they following instruction? Can they follow instruction and get the job done? Can they solve a problem? Can they listen? All these intangible professionalism development. Not only do we lecture people, but we make sure they demonstrate these in the small assignments they do. So with all this process is how we prepare someone or enhance a candidate's employability. Now, with that, let me kind of wrap up my segment with a little bit of more like a recap of the relationship between ICATT and Agile ISD. So since I would say Agile ISD is ICATT's DNA. Since our existence, we've been using this methodology formally and informally to deliver projects for our clients. And one evidence of that is, about 80% of the people who work with our project are homegrown. So we have them focus on the client needs and deliver. So we've been home-growing people. So what we've done recently is just formalize that, growing those people in-house to this, week-long boot camp with employability, so we can prepare them faster and more formally. And last but not least, so our goal now and in the future is, rather than just passively or somehow using this methodology, is using this methodology as an engine for enhancing employability and creating jobs. With that said, let me turn it over to my colleague, Jonathan, to go ahead and give us the ICATT Agile Instructional System Design Practitioner, what, why, and how. Jonathan?
Thank you, Gabe. Appreciate that. When we're talking about the ICATT ISD Practitioner program, wanted to give you, as Gabe just said, the what, the why, and the how. And let me start by just a quick overview of Agile ISD. And at the heart of the Agile ISD Practitioner program is this idea of having an iterative approach to instructional design. Iterative is the key word here, and it means that we want to be involved in repeated, small, incremental steps in the creation of a training course, with each of those iterations making the training course better and better. So the idea is to start building the final product from the very beginning, instead of trying to deliver it all, near the end all at once, and here it is finished. So these small iterations are great because they make room for quick evaluations and necessary changes to the direction of the training program. And it allows for a fast pivot to the design if it's needed. It also ensures that the client knows exactly what is happening throughout the design and development processes. They got their pulse on it the whole time. So there's a lot of benefits to this approach, and I just want to highlight a couple of them real quickly. First is, with Agile ISD, you can produce higher quality deliverables in more rapid time. You can also reduce the need for extensive last moment revisions because somebody wasn't clear on what was going on. that open collaboration and communication has happened throughout. And finally, I also, as I just alluded to, allowing for greater collaboration between the development team and the client and the stakeholders. With that, let's think for a moment about ICATT Agile ISD from a sort of perspective of, okay, well, what about the ADDIE model? And it's important to revisit the ADDIE model for a moment to understand a little bit more, not how Agile ISD is different, but instead how it enhances that ADDIE model. And so the ADDIE model, if we go back in time, was created in 1975 by Florida State University with the intent of providing a framework for creating training for the U.S. Army. ADDIE was built with a very linear approach where one phase is finished and perfected before moving on to the next. Each step is then reviewed before you can move forward. And this means that the process can be a bit slow and cumbersome as you work through these different steps in the ADDIE model. This brings another challenge sometimes to the ADDIE model, and that comes with, well, what happens when you have to backtrack? If something goes wrong, a lot of times you feel like you're restarting from the very beginning. But with Agile ISD, we're talking about multiple steps that are often taking place simultaneously, especially the designing and development pieces. And this means that adjustments can be made quickly. It doesn't feel like you're starting over at the very beginning when you have to make a change. It's just part of that iterative process. Agile ISD does not replace the ADDIE model, and in fact is really just an outgrowth of that model as a result of clients requesting more and more rapid development of training projects. They want to get to that end a lot sooner than the ADDIE model sometimes allows that to happen. So think of Agile ISD as making instructional design a more fluid process. And because it can move faster, it's easier to make adjustments if a change is needed. Now, if you think about the ADDIE model, it has about 5 steps there that are followed in the creation of a training program. And with the Agile ISD, you're talking about 4 iterations. And those iterations are analyze, design, develop, and deploy. And as I just got done saying, the design and development iterations often are happening with overlap. So rather than assuming that the initial needs analysis covered everything and that there's going to be no changes that are going to be requested or required during the design and development process, this is where you're starting to see a big difference between the Agile ISD approach and the more traditional ADDIE model approach. So Agile ISD is continuously returning to the design and development iterations and making quick, small changes that keep the whole thing moving forward. So rather than, again, creating or feeling like you deliver this final product at the end, Agile ISD creates these multiple iterations within which small increments are made. With each iteration, the client and the stakeholders can see and know clearly where the project is at. They can also test out different elements of the course that's being developed and see how it's working out. This gives teams the chance to identify issues and to really shrink that feedback loop. And, you think about, well, what could they be running into? Well, I mean, there's always going to be these unanticipated changes or a reevaluation of features or functions that were envisioned, and when you get to the reality of them, they don't quite work as you thought they were going to. So the point here is that it is not possible to know everything about a training project in that initial needs analysis and even into that design phase. So nor can every possible change that's needed be anticipated. And that's why Agile ISD is so wonderful, because it's all about focusing on results. It's all about adding immediate value and working in partnership with clients and stakeholders to design an appropriate training solution. And the key is to be able to do it rapidly. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Kimberly, who's going to walk you through some specifics of the process, and we'll look at something that we've been developing.
Thank you, Jonathan. So I am going to talk about the approach we took to this course, as well as the content, and then provide you with a brief walkthrough. So in terms of our approach, we set out to make this Agile course relevant to real-world work in instructional design. And as Gabe mentioned, ICATT has been using and refining the Agile method for the last 27 years. So as true practitioners of Agile, we set out to create an authentic experience. We wanted to share our secrets and our best practices with the next generation of instructional designers. And we believe this course will improve students' employability so much that we made it hands-on so that students can practice and build a portfolio so that by the time they're done, they're ready to begin true instructional design work. In terms of the content, we, again, keeping with real-world context and providing relevant practice, the course follows a blended or a hybrid model. The lessons and assignments can be completed entirely online in a self-paced environment, but at the same time, we're offering a layer of coaching and support through one-on-one feedback. So each time the student learns a new iteration in the process, they're given an immediate opportunity to apply what they've learned and produce a deliverable. Then throughout the course, they'll be given feedback they can use that mirrors what Jonathan talked about in terms of that evaluation and collaboration process. They'll be able to revise and improve their course until in the end, they'll have a complete course that they can use as a work sample to build their portfolio. So with that, I want to go ahead and show you the Agile course on our learning management system. In these slides, for future reference, we do have the link, and we also have the coupon code so that you can access this to take a look at it. So I'm going to go ahead and open this. So when a student opens the course, they're immediately greeted by kind of a fun and exciting mission briefing as they're being introduced to their role as an Agile instructional designer. That follows with a couple of modules. The first one is about what's new with Agile. And this is really an overview of a lot of what Jonathan talked about in terms of moving from ADDIE into this adjustment of going faster, of thinking differently, and really using what ADDIE has to offer, but enhancing it with this process. Both of these modules have knowledge checks where the student can make sure that they understood the big ideas, because really it's a mindset shift. Or if they're new to instructional design, then it's simply understanding this way of thinking. Moving into module 3, this part of the course breaks down each iteration of the Agile process. So the student will be greeted with this video where they will have a voice narrated kind of guide through the presentation. They'll understand, for example, the analyze step, and then they'll be invited to try it. So in this case, they're presented with an activity where they're given a true RFP found online and some guiding questions to help them read through and understand what is the kind of information that I'm going to need to rapidly build a course prototype in response. Then, as I mentioned earlier, they'll be given some feedback from our coaches once they submit a link to their prototype to this email address that will be specifically for this course. And then as they do that, they're moving on into the design phase and so on. One of the other features of this module is that we wanted to provide contextualized support for each piece of the process. So for example, in the design phase, they're probably going to be diving a little bit deeper into the content. And one of the things they'll need to know how to do is to write measurable learning objectives that are really connecting to Bloom's taxonomy and the level of knowledge required for that particular learning objective. As they move on, again, with each iteration, they'll have the opportunity to receive more feedback. They'll be adding to the course that they're building in the authoring tool of their choice. And then when we get to the develop phase, that's really a time for some more feedback as well as some self-assessment. So we've provided some opportunities for them to take a look again at their learning objectives, at the learning activities that they've created and the assessments, and make sure that things are aligned, not just with the learning objectives that they wrote, but also with client expectations, in this case, their coach's expectations. And finally, peer reviews will be part of that process as well. So when we get to course testing, we provide them with a template to use for their own testing, as well as to provide a couple of peer reviews to other people in the class. Then in the last sections of the course, we really want to enhance their employability, as Gabe mentioned. So putting it all together into a professional portfolio is part of the course, really encouraging them that they have created something that is worth showcasing, and showing them how to go ahead and put that online into their own personal website, or however they want to create a virtual portfolio, and then sharing that with their classmates. And then finally, at the end, we've provided some resources. So we want them to be aware of ISPI's 10 standards for practitioners and how to apply those standards. We also want to keep them informed about the instructional design community as part of Agile, always moving forward, always wanting to be aware of new trends and opportunities. So we're providing them with some resources, as well as just making them aware that this is part of how to be successful in this field, is to stay educated and stay excited about what's new and upcoming. So with that, I'll go ahead and bring us back to the presentation for any questions, observations, and discussion.
Kimberly, I want to give more like closing remarks. With that said, I guess my first remark is I want to give super thank you and shout out to Peter Baverso. Aside from his leadership at ISPI Potomac, being an Agilist, in the early stages, some of the pointers he gave us have been an echo in developing this. And then, Jonathan, who's been kind of our inner voice, has been very helpful in kind of making this program truly agile. So this journey is going to continue. We may be, 60, 70, 80% agile. Will continue to move in that direction. So one of the things that guided our development, especially, Kimberly being kind of the center of developing this, we are on one hand working on a client project where we are using this methodology and learning from it and tweaking it. So I think there was the benefit of that. And even the process of developing this, kind of the iteratively, putting the first prototype out and then continuing to improve has been extremely helpful and insightful. So we are continuing to learn. Now, with that said, a few other things I want to say. If we take our eyes outside our profession and outside our world, ICATT created I'm just going to say something outside what we're discussing. ICATT created in collaboration with ISPI Potomac, the multidisciplinary webinar. Why? Because our world doesn't exist as a silo. Let's say if we just talk about instructional design every week, there is enough topic to discuss instructional design every time, or performance improvement. But there is life, our global, community we are pulling together. It is just a combination of engineering and learning and technology and space and environment. This is how life happens. And talking of life happens, with the pandemic, even before the pandemic, we've been increasingly moving into a virtual work and a virtual learning environment. And so with, the US Bureau of Labor Statistics showing, instructional design is one of the fastest growing professions. So they are their model shows 11% growth of this profession. Why? Because we are moving increasingly in a virtual work and learning environment. The need for people to learn in time and do very highly critical things is becoming very important. So the need for instructional designers has increased, which means the demand for a profession and opportunity for people to make a living out of this has become very clear to us. Just want to point that out. And also, I want to point out, I come from the traditional instructional design house, from Florida State. And we continue to engage people with traditional instructional design background. Now, I guess the dichotomy between when to use traditional versus non-traditional, there was a time when ICATT was, we had a year-long contract to develop an 8-hour class. And guess what? Now we have a 5-day training class, and we do it with a 1-week prep, and that's it. That's all we get. Sometimes we have a 1-day prep to do a 5-day, training. So when we have shorter time and limited budget, we use Agile. There is no way around it. However, when we have a year-long to develop an 8-hour course, we can use traditional because we can go through that process. And so there is a place for each one of the methodologies. One is not going to replace the other, but there are times when Agile ISD practitioner approach is handy, and there are times when you have the luxury of using the traditional methodology. Now, with that said, I want to conclude by saying, we will be looking for 2 types of attendees of this ICATT Agile ISD Practitioner program. Our primary target is people with, with Agile ISD aptitude. I referred to the aptitude, including skills like critical thinking, writing, visual design, as well as online resource development. So we can take anyone at that level with our proven methodology, kind of give them the skills and get them ready. So that's our primary target. The secondary target is there may be someone with a degree, whether they have a bachelor's or AA or master's or PhD with very limited hands-on experience. This is a place where they can get the hands-on skill so that they can turn out amazingly engaging courseware, whether these courses are instructor-led, blended, or online learning. So that's kind of the place for this. Now, with that said, we'll be using resellers. We'll be working with other people in the industry, colleagues, competitors, all of them, who can use this program to make it available for others who need it, either in the workforce development arena, in a corporate arena, or in any professional development space. With that, we look forward to working with partners, competitors, academic institutions, workforce development agencies, so that what our dream team has brought to the world can be an asset for us to advance economically and socially in this increasingly diverse, global, virtual working and learning environment. With that, I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and thank you. Kimberly, I think you can stop the recording and we can have a chat.